120th Annual Winter Carnival kicks off this weekend in Saranac Lake, New York. It is the oldest festival of its kind in the nation. Every year, volunteers cut huge blocks of ice from lake flour to create a grand spectacle that has become the centerpiece of this famous carnival. Here's Jack LaDuke.
A flurry of activity like this has been going on in Saranac Lake every January for the past 120 years. It's all about building an ice palace for the annual Winter Carnival. The structure is entirely of frozen water and rises 2 stories high. When completed, it will resemble an Adirondack log cabin. In some previous years, unusually warm weather has plagued construction and even threatened the possibility of not having an ice palace for the Winter Carnival.
The weather has not cooperated up until last Friday, and we were going to start a week before that actually, and it just didn't happen because of the weather. This was a mud field up until last Wednesday, and then it started cooling down. So we started Friday, and now we're rolling right along.
And the ice is thick enough this year to do something?
Actually, we had 1 foot ice, which is what we like to start. We had that 2 weeks ago, but because of the weather up here, we just left it in the lake, and it didn't melt. And now, every night it's getting a little thicker, so we're happy.
Building an ice palace is a time-honored ritual done by an all-volunteer crew of weather-resistant folks. Blocks of ice a foot thick, weighing 400 pounds, are sawed from Pontiac Bay, scooted to the construction site where they are set in place. Slush, a mixture of snow and water, is packed between the ice blocks and acts as a cement, holding them in place. In the event Mother Nature doesn't cooperate in the building of this ice palace and has temperatures up above freezing, there is a plan B.
We always have a plan B, and that's build it half the size. Actually, for height, we only go as high as necessary so people can't climb on and hurt themselves. It's pretty dangerous up there. So we go that high and then we stop. And if we have more time this year, we will go a little higher. And we will make these back towers higher so you can see them from the street too.
The Ice Palace is the center of the Winter Carnival. It draws the people in. It gives people a place to congregate. It is Winter Carnival.
About 100 volunteers for the chilly workday show up, including a crew from Shock Camp Moriah. All volunteers say it's for a good reason.
Well, to me, this is part of the Adirondack experience, and the spirit in this community to do this for over 100 years now is just tremendous. It's been a long time. I wanted to be part of that community spirit.
This is my 6th year, and I was inspired to volunteer by Caper Tissot, who wrote the book on Adirondack ice. And so I asked her how I knew that she had worked on the Ice Palace and how one got involved, and she said, you just show up. And so I did, and she got me oriented, and it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Robin Johnson has been ice carving inside and outside the Ice Palace for several years. He crafts his work to whatever the carnival theme is. This year, it's Adirondack wildlife.
There's a lot of science to it. You have to block up your blocks the night before so you could carve the next day. You absolutely cannot get away with blocking it up that day and carving it. And it's very complicated as far as temperatures of what you can get away with. There are certain days that you can overcarve and things will fall apart on you. Since it's lake ice, it's not perfect ice. It's not like the fancy freezer ice you see in magazines and stuff on TV. Lake ice is a little temperamental, and a lot of it has to do with the temperature that it was made at. If we'd had a lot of 20 below, the ice is super hard and you can get really aggressive with it and do a little bit more. If the ice was made at a time through time periods when it was right on the edge of freezing, just enough to make ice, then the ice is going to be a little more brittle.
Johnson is carving moose, ducks, beavers, and other animals this year. When completed, the Ice Palace draws thousands of spectators to Saranac Lake, and they watch the biggest parade in the Tri-Lakes area. For the first time, area artists are facing the Adirondack wildlife theme head-on. They're creating masks of local animals.
Anybody in the community can purchase a mask, and they put it together themselves. It's a template, and that mask is then put together by them. It's basically a puzzle, and then they go ahead and they decorate it however they see fit.
A number of mask makers will be wearing their creations in the parade on Saturday the 11th. For Mountain Lake Journal, I'm Jack LaDuke in Saranac Lake.